What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm super excited to have him on the show. Been watching his YouTube channel for a while now. And our guest is none other than Nelson Abalos Jr., a.k.a. Pixel Geek. He's a web designer and a web developer. He's a husband and a father. He also works customer support at Webflow, but you probably know him because he posts tutorials on YouTube, and he is about almost 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I'm gonna call you a YouTuber now, bro. You're a YouTuber, right?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I guess I never meant to be. I just wanted to post videos because I always thought Webflow was going to be the future, and now it's the present. So, yay.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I do want to get into that. But I want to maybe start our conversation today with just something light, something lighthearted. So first question, really quick, Nelson, who did you vote for and why? No, I'm kidding. I'm playing.
So I voted for Mars. Mars 2020.
Now let's talk about family, bro. So you have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
You have a daughter. How old's your daughter now?
She is 3.5. Yeah.
That's a fun age.
Yeah.
I have two daughters.
Ooh.
I have two. One is 2 years old and one is 1 year old.
Ooh.
So it gets pretty crazy.
Kind of like the sirens in your background.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Like I have to every time I have a YouTube video or whatever, I gotta clean up our room like crazy just because it's just like a tornado over here. What's your daughter? If you don't mind me asking, what's your daughter's name?
Nova.
Nova. That's
Yeah.
an awesome name, man. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a funny story with that. We were trying to come up with names. I had two requirements when we were coming up with names. It was it has to be either video game related or space related. And I tried. I liked the video game Mirror's Edge, and I was trying to go for that religious part too, so faith. But it didn't really sit well after a while. We would come up with names, and then we would shelve it. And then we would come back to it and be like, how's this name? And we're like, But then when my wife said Nova, I was like, yo!
Nova's a sweet name.
It hits StarCraft, and it hits space. And I was like, that's it. That's it. And it is a
and Marvel too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Didn't think about that.
No.
When my wife was pregnant, I told her there was one name that I've always loved. It was from Final Fantasy X.
Nice.
Back in the day, I think that was PlayStation 2. Riku.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever played Final Fantasy X? Riku.
I haven't
always
played,
thought that was
but
a cool name.
I know of.
So I thought that was a cool name, but we went with she bore the child in her belly, so she got the name decision making.
Okay, cool.
Power.
Yeah, much respect, man.
Anyway, that's awesome, man. Being a girl dad is the best.
Oh yes.
It's awesome. All right, bro. So I guess we'll start out. Want to love to hear your story. How did you get started with web design or web development? Whatever you do, how did you get started with it?
Yeah. This story, it's just, let's see here. When I was in middle school, like 13, it was back in the days of like 36.6 kbps dial-up modems, and I was playing Warcraft 2 with my middle school friend over BattleNet, and classmate and I were just like, we would always play in the afternoon, and then one day he sent me a link over AOL, America Online, and it was just one page, and then he said, hey, I made something on a thing called AOL member pages. I was like, what's that? Here's a link to my page. I'm like, okay, cool. And it just said it was a Times New Roman, black text, white background, no images. It just said, hi, my name is Erwin. I'm 13 years old. My hobbies are da-da-da-da. And at that moment, that was the spark. That was like, wait, you made something on your screen, on your computer, and I'm able to see it on mine? How did you do that? I want to learn. And he showed me, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then my curiosity kept growing to the point of finding this thing called GeoCities. And at the time, GeoCities only had 2 modes. And this was before GeoCities was bought out and ultimately killed off by Yahoo. So you had this long URL. It was like geocities.com slash a neighborhood slash your your district, and then a neighborhood, and then 4 numbers to represent your home on the internet. So it was really long. And they had 2 modes. They had a basic and an advanced. And basic was just a wizard, basically a multi-step form that said, okay, put in data on each step, and then at the end, publish. You have a web page. And I was like, okay, cool. I made my own homepage on GeoCities. But what is this advanced mode? What is this all about? And so I would click onto advanced mode, and it would show me all these weird random characters. I was like, oh, what is this? And then I would change something, and then I would break my homepage. And so I'd fix it, and then change something else, add to it, and I naturally started to learn HTML from GeoCities because of that advanced mode. And it just kept snowballing from there because I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And it's just been nonstop since then.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I learned as well. Well, not like GeoCities. I'm kind of newer with the code, but I feel like you learn how to do something. Like, for example, you learn how to edit text, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you wanted to learn more tricks. Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And then you start. But back then, though, I mean, was there a lot of like Google articles or YouTube? See, how I learned, I'm more recent. I learned HTML and CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, just around like 4 or 5 years ago.
Nice.
To put it in context, I'm like 33, so this is later in life. But I had Google and YouTube, which had all the answers to everything. But how did you manage to figure that out?
So let's see, how did I figure out? I just, again, I would break something and put it back. Break something and put it back, and add on top of it, add on top of it. There was hardly anything to research back in the day, you know? And then I learned this thing called viewing the source, you know, like what's happening on like apple.com or all these other popular websites. What are they doing? Copy their code and put it into my GeoCities page. What happens, you know? And so I would just copy what people are doing and try to figure out, okay, how can I mold it into what I want?
So you were like legit self-taught. Like this is like as self-taught as can be. Yeah. Did you go to school for computer engineering or web development at all?
I am a bad student. I dropped out of junior college after 2 years. I didn't follow the usual school path, you know. I almost didn't graduate high school. Like I was failing D's and F's, and I just didn't like doing homework. You know, that's not my jam. But in 10th grade, I asked my computer lab teacher. I said, hey, like there's no club in high school right now that is like this crazy about making web pages. I want to create a club. I want to show people how to make this, because like everyone's all talking about yo-yos and Tamagotchis back then. And,
man, yo-yos were big back in the day. I remember.
Oh yeah. And it's like, no, there's no club about this. I need to find a tribe of people. You know what? I'm going to make my own tribe. And so I asked my computer lab teacher, can I take over the class for a week? Instead of doing word processing, I just wanted to be around computers, so that's why I took that class. But can I teach HTML? And she was like, okay, sure. Dang. And I'm legit writing on the dry erase board HTML, head tag, title, and explaining each line of code. What does it mean? What does IMG source or IMG SRC mean? Where do you find animated GIFs, and how do you put them into your web page? Like all that stuff I was so jazzed about. And
this was as a 10th grader?
As a 10th grader.
Oh, snap.
because I naturally wanted to share this passion of, look, you can create stuff on the internet. Look how fun it is. And that's all I wanted to do, just tell people how fun it is to make stuff with code. And no one else was doing it. And even at this time, there was hardly any computers with internet. At the time, there was like two computer lab classrooms, and the library had four computers that had internet. So every time at lunch, I would not eat. I would run to the library, and hopefully, none of the four computers with internet were being used at the time. So I'd be there teaching myself HTML and messing around with my GeoCities page and trying to figure out what all of this means, because that meant more to me than social studies or history or math or biology. Like, the technology was just more interesting than that, and that's why I almost didn't graduate, but thankfully I did.
Wow, we can go to so many avenues with that. So that was kind of like, I mean, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but that's pretty much kind of the roots where you got a love for teaching web, for creating communities. And I know you have the Pixel Geek Community, which we're going to talk about later on, which I would love to, kind of spend some time on.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that you had that passion of teaching people, even as a 10th grader. Like, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate high school. So
Barely.
were you, and oh yeah, barely graduated high school. Then you went to college, dropped out, right? Like you said. What was your career path then? Were you like still creating websites? Were you doing freelance? What were you doing?
I was doing freelance because that made me more happy. Like, I would make websites for friends, and one day one person heard about me and asked if I could make their website, and my first paycheck was $75 mailed to me, like a $75 check. And I was like, yo, you can make money off of this? What? And thankfully, my father was able to help me get my first foot in the door into a career as a civilian contractor for the Navy, helping maintain this website, a government website. And it was off to the races after that. And I found my next job as a HTML email developer, and then junior web designer at an agency doing flash banners and for like Oakley, Top Flight Golf, and Cars.com. But I would just grow with technology, and that's why I love making websites, because there's always something new, always some new technology, new code, new trick, new something to learn, and then ultimately teach.
And that was all pretty much HTML, CSS. Did you dive into WordPress at all a bit, or just mostly code?
I did a dabble with WordPress, but PHP and WordPress, how weird it was, it just like, it frustrated me. And then the plugins, and I'm like, and I haven't touched WordPress since, I don't know, 2001 or something like that. Some old version, but yeah.
I'm the same way. So when I started, web design, web development, I went straight to HTML, CSS, and then I tried WordPress a bit. And this is all recent, because I'm honestly fairly new, especially compared to you. You've been doing this since 10th grade. I'm new to, graphic design I've been doing for a while, but web design specifically, web development, I'm newer. And when I dabbled with WordPress, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it so much. I hate it with a passion. I don't even want to touch it. If a client goes to me, I'll pay this much, this WordPress, like, nope, I'm sorry, I don't want to do it.
I feel that. I feel those feelings. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and so this brings us to where, I discovered Webflow. So I want to ask you, how did you discover Webflow? When did you discover it? And just kind of what was your, because that's how we met, right? Webflow. Yeah. So how did you start with that?
Yeah. What is Webflow? No, just kidding.
Well, let me tell you about
life change. So at the time, 2000, I'll go back to my previous job. I was an in-house web designer over at Illumina, and part of their marketing team. And at the time when I first joined that team, I was using Dreamweaver. And then my coworkers, they're web developers, and they're like, "You're using Dreamweaver? But no, you should be using Sublime." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool." So I switched over to Sublime, and that was my first time using Sublime. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I would draft something up in Photoshop, get it approved, and then code everything by hand in Sublime, and hopefully it works." But then, what's cool about at that time in Illumina, they pay for once a year. You get to go to any conference or whatever to grow your skills and to learn. And so in 2013, I went to a web design conference, and one of the talks this guy was giving was past, present, and future web design tools. And two of the tools that stood out to me at the time was Macaw and Webflow, and they both had a landing page that said, "Here's what we're trying to do. Drop your email, and we'll give you closed beta access if you're chosen." Cool, didn't think about it. But 2 weeks later, after the conference, I get an email from Webflow saying, "Oh, here's your closed beta code." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I'm at work. I sign up, use my code, and I play with Webflow for 1 hour. And I'm like, "What? You can create HTML and CSS in real time without having to code, and the code is clean?" And my inner child, my inner teenager self came out again and said, Have you heard this? I need to tell everyone, coworkers, friends, family." I'm like, this is the future. And at the time, you can only make one page. It was a landing page builder at the time. No CMS, really? No multi-image or no multi-pages, no custom code, no code export. Just make a landing page. And I'm like, this is the future. This is it. This is what I've been searching for. And you know how many people is going to benefit from this? I need to tell everyone. So I even have it bookmarked still. My Reddit post about it. I was like, this is it. And my whole passion behind it right now is the same from that first day. And you can see people on the Reddit post going, this guy seems like he's just like overly hyping it up. Like, it seems like an ad or something that Webflow was trying to do. And someone from Webflow, I don't know which of the founders, were like, "No, we don't know this person. Like, he's not speaking for us." And I'm like, "You guys, this is the future." And so obviously I got downvoted because I was overly hyping it up. But to me, I'm like, this is the thing. And so that's where it all started.
That kind of sums up exactly how I felt, right?
Yeah.
Because I was coding, and I remember I would get frustrated sometimes with coding because there were some things that you just have a hard time with. There's one example. I hated forms, right? I hated creating forms. Yeah. And so whenever I would do a website for a client, and I'm kind of confessing this now, I would say, forms aren't such a good idea. I mean, people don't really like filling out forms. I'd say, just put your phone number. Wouldn't you want to? I'd rather speak to an actual person. And I'd sell it like, form's not a good idea. Like, if they want a form. But that's really just because I didn't want to create forms because I hated creating forms. And then I discovered Webflow. So I'm pretty new. I'm a noob in Webflow, man. I started using Webflow. I discovered it last year, November. And then same thing. I was mind blown. Like, this is like HTML and CSS. Like, if it was Photoshop. Yeah. Like, if you were to literally put it on the screen and like, this is HTML, this is CSS, and then, whatever you do, like, you'll see it right away. I was like mind blown. I created my first website like in like one night. That night, Yeah. I created like a page for myself, and then I started telling all my friends about it. You guys gotta check out Webflow. You guys gotta check it out. Like, I converted like all my friends, like all my web designer friends. Like, you gotta check out Webflow. Like, forget HTML. I will never code again. I will just do Webflow. And I was so pumped about it. I still am. I'm super excited about Webflow. So you've been using it since 2013, right? Yeah. When did you start posting tutorials on YouTube, and also kind of what inspired you to do that?
Let me check my YouTube channel right now. Like, I keep saying it's 2013, but I don't like to lie. So I'm guessing it's. Hold on, let me put the date. I'm checking. Yeah, yeah, it's 2013. I started my YouTube channel in 2013, and
Wow.
um, I still have the first Webflow review or walkthrough video, and I'll give you a link to that later.
That was your first
Um,
video?
October 8th, 2013. Only has 5,000 views, but like that was my first video explaining Webflow and saying like this is the Photoshop replacement for web design.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's called. And man, it's been a ride ever since.
That's how I think Webflow is right now, and I think Webflow will be. It's gonna be like the Photoshop of web
It already
design.
is.
And
It
I
already
was
is.
even, I was even thinking because I remember during Adobe Max,
Hmm.
you know how huge Adobe is
Yeah,
in a design world. I feel like, to be honest, I feel like Webflow could be the Adobe of web development moving forward.
it already is.
You know, yeah. So
I'm just calling it. I've called
yeah.
it since 2013. You know, like the the way the approach of the product, you know, is so empathetic, and it's trying to make lives easier for a lot of people. You know, there's this huge niche of designers and developers that need this evolution of a web design tool. And Vlad has said it many times and explained it many times in his talks on podcasts, in his keynotes, especially his keynote in during the No Code conference last year. Um, yeah, yeah,
Um, so going back to high school, when you were teaching web development and creating websites, creating communities, was that kind of what also sparked you posting tutorials on YouTube? Just really just wanted to share.
I just wanted to share. I just wanted to show people. Um, so that's half of it. The other half was going to conferences. Uh, Made me say, wow, if these geeks, these nerds are super pumped to go on stage and tell people about these wonderful things they've learned about web design, I want to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked my boss while I was at Illumina, hey, can I take a speaking class that our company is offering? She's like, yeah, yeah. So it's a whole week class, and I got to take it while at work, on campus at work, and it helped me come out of my introvert bubble a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, let me try to do these things I'm very passionate about, talk about these things I'm passionate about, and put it on the internet. And yeah, it was rough, but I just kept doing it. And I wasn't doing it for the subs. I wasn't doing it for the likes or the comments. I was just doing it because I'm training myself to become a speaker. You know, fake it
That's good.
until you become it. And people would subscribe. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know? So that's why I started my YouTube channel, just to and the whole passion of sharing, you know, of it's the same thing like you're playing video games and you find out a cheat code, or you find out a shortcut to the
Mm-hmm.
goal of the video game. You want to share it with your friends, and that's just me. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I found this out. You should here. I want to give this piece of knowledge to you, and so that's what I've been doing on my YouTube channel.
That's awesome, bro. And I feel like that should be, you know, people's intent when they're sharing these tutorials on YouTube. That was kind of my intent as well. Just wanted to, you know, share what I know. Maybe there are
Yeah,
people that are kind of in the same stage as I am. Maybe they're like switching careers,
yeah,
or they found web design, web development late in their career, and they want to learn, you know, from the beginning. So I want to share that.
yeah.
Well, I know this question right here. A lot of people are going to be interested in this because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people in the Webflow community, I'm pretty sure, have this dream as well. So you also work as customer support
Yeah.
at Webflow, right? So how did you get that job? What was kind of the process into getting that job?
So, I wasn't actually looking for this position.
Mm-hmm.
I at the time I was looking for another job, but I never thought I'd work for Webflow. But ever since I learned about Webflow, I needed to tell the world. I needed to. I started a YouTube channel about it. I went on the community forums and helped people. People helped me, and I said I need to go even further because I want to become a speaker, but I also want to talk about what I love, which is Webflow at the time, and let me go to meetups and talk about it. And my first meetup,
Mm-hmm.
that story, there was only 6 people who showed up, and
Mm-hmm.
I was wearing like a nice like a blazer with those elbow pads or something like that. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I wanted to look super legit. Only 6 people showed up, and I'm like, oh well, just keep going. You can do it. And then
You were the speaker?
I was the speaker. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and 2 people left in the middle of it,
Oh,
and I just kept going, sweating so much, and there was other 2 people who were there actually listening intently, so that was nice. And the other 2 people was my wife and her best friend, just there for moral support. So it was a rough start, but I just kept going because I wanted to tell people about this. So 2.5 years of running, of going to meetups and talking about it, helping on the Webflow community forums, and doing a YouTube channel about this, and just talking about this future of web design. I That's when Vlad asked through email, "Hey, we're wondering
mm.
if you'd be interested in joining the team." And I was, what? Okay. And so it started from there, and got hired on June 2015, and it's
Wow.
been a crazy, crazy fun ride ever since.
That's so awesome, man, and well deserved for sure.
Thank
Yeah, about these meetups, it sucks that
you.
I literally started doing Webflow around like November, December, and then 3 months later the pandemic happened, and I can't go to none of these meetups. And there's not; it's all virtual, right? I've
Yeah.
been trying to attend those. Um, and we could talk more about that later. So, well, let's transition to the community, the
Yeah.
Pixel Geek
Yeah.
community, and then we'll probably, kind of cap it off there. Well, tell us about the Pixel Geek community. What inspired you to start it? What's the mission? I've seen the mission of it for sure, but what inspired you to branch off a bit and start creating your community?
So, wanted to create a community of no coders who lead with honesty and empathy. Um, the way I approach community, approach my clients, approach my life every day is with honesty and empathy. There's, especially nowadays, political climate, and especially, it's made people yell more, talk more, but
Mm.
forget how to listen. And especially with web design, you can just do things really quickly, and all you care about is that money from your client, but you don't care about the client in a way where you're like, am I thinking about how my client is going to maintain their site after I hand it off to them? Am I thinking about a way that when I speak to them over email, that I'm talking with empathy? Am I building with honesty and empathy? Am I helping my fellow no coders with honesty and empathy? And that's what I'm trying to bring forward. Um, and I wanted to do more ideas, more things, in my way of growing a community. Like, for example, the No Code Awards that just ended.
Yeah.
I see I see website award sites that are all about ratings. Like, okay, you have this judge who's an avatar. It's just a photo of them and then a rating of your project. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
cool story, bro. But that's the problem. There is no story behind it. I honestly care only like 1/3 about your project. I care 2/3 more about how did you get there? What obstacles that you have to overcome? What mental things did you feel down about? Like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish this, or I don't think I have, I don't think I'm good enough to finish this. Like, how did you overcome those? That's more important than the finished project. And that's what I'm trying to bring out into the no code community. And I have many, many more ideas that I want to do, but I want to do it in my way, hence why I created this community.
That's awesome, and I bet you have all these ideas, your vision for it. So don't share like all your ideas.
Yeah.
But what do you see? Where do you envision the Pixel Geek community? Maybe say in the next 6 months or in the next year. And let's say the world gets better and we start able to meet physically.
Yeah. I mean, what I love, is teaching live. And I've been doing that since I was in 10th grade, only because I want to share my knowledge and share the wonders of creating with technology. And it's that fun thing again, back when I was a kid, like, hey, look at this cool thing I learned on a video game, you should try it, to now, hey, look at this cool thing I did inside of Webflow or with other no code tools, see what you can do with it. And so my team and I at Pixel Geek have been working on a live course. So you can, for a whole week, for 4 hours a day through a whole week, I will be there teaching live and answering your questions live to help you understand how to get from I don't understand HTML and CSS, I don't understand Webflow, to I can build a whole portfolio site responsive with databases, aka collections, and I've done it all myself and I know how to customize it. And so if that works, then I'll be doing an advanced course and sharing my knowledge even more and doing it live again, showing you how to do stuff with interactions, Webflow e-commerce, integrations with Zapier and other no-code tools, and helping you understand how to take full advantage of Webflow. And if that works, a business course with my wife, showing you how we both work together, as I'm a visual developer and she's the graphic designer, and working together to create client sites really, really fast and also keep a good relationship with your clients. So that's just one of the many ideas I have on my mirror with all these sticky notes right now, and I am just like so excited to get it done, but one step at a time.
For sure. And yeah, we're excited to see it. I feel like it has a good foundation already because of what you built on YouTube and what you built in your social following and people that you've helped personally, me being one of them, right? And I try to be part of the community as well. I know sometimes I'm not as active because I'm, kind of busy, everywhere. But going back to what you said about, because your wife is a designer as well, and then you have a daughter. So we're kind of transitioning to, I guess, talking about family. How do you, this is one big thing. And this is probably a question more for me, right?
Yeah.
If you have some advice, how do you balance work, YouTube, being a husband, being a father, and I guess not just you, but even your wife as well, who is a designer, talented designer, as I might add. How do you balance all that, man?
Yeah, it takes a lot of planning, compromise, communication, and helpful volunteers, helpful team members. So for my day job, I have very supportive colleagues. My boss and director. I mean, I have a wonderful director. You've probably heard of him, Waldo. And my boss, Ben, he runs the, oh no, I forgot the name of his podcast. No. Oh yeah, Visual Dev FM. There it is. So Ben and his team are cool over there, and Ben has been very supportive of me at work. And then a supportive wife who understands my passion, and I understand her passions, and we're able to uh, schedule time each day to make sure that we're still a family. We still have dinners and lunches. Actually, now with pandemic, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the table,
Yeah.
and we don't skip that. We make sure that we have time for that, and plus, we put everything on Google Calendar, and we share all of our events on Google Calendar. And then what we always say is, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. And there are times when I double book, and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to tell her. And there's times when she does, but we try to keep that communication going, and we always make sure that our relationship, what we learn from marriage classes, is it when the love starts with both of us, our daughter will soak that and she'll understand it more. And so we try to keep that going. And it's a tough road. You're going to argue, but as long as the end of the night you love each other still, then it's all good. It was worth the argument. You just gotta keep that going. And then as far as Pixel Geek and YouTube, again, we make sure that it's scheduled where I had to ask her, when can I stream? And there was a time when I wanted to stream every other day, and it was just too much. And so we came to a compromise of Saturday mornings. You get 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it's been working out. And now that I'm doing this Pixel Geek community, I found 3 wonderful volunteers to help run it. It's not only me who's uploading videos, it's my volunteer Rock. He's helping doing that and creating small clips. Colleen helps me produce the live streams by saying, okay, here's the topic, here's the questions, here's the announcements that you got to make, here's your list, all right, go. And so that's been helpful. And then Sarah has been on the chat boards answering questions and moderating the chat board. So they've been really, really helpful. So it's love, communication, and a team of wonderful people.
That's a good idea, what you said. One thing that I'm probably going to steal from you is the Google Calendar thing.
Yes.
That my wife and I will sync Google Calendars. Because my wife, she just started a business, actually, this year. It was around when pandemic started.
Yeah.
She started an online store,
Okay.
which is for, like, babies. She sells, like, accessories for babies and toddlers. And it's growing. Like, it's growing at a really good rate. She's almost at 10,000 followers on Instagram.
Nice.
Like, she is killing me on the social following, because I'm like a snail on the social following, and she's like a rabbit, man. She's like boom, 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 growing.
Well, I mean, that market is always growing. See what I did there?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And it's not like people are gonna stop having babies, right?
Yeah. I mean, more so now that people are like stuck at home.
There you go.
I mean, I feel like this is the new baby boomers generation.
there you go.
You know.
She's about to get an uptick on business in like the next month or two, from March.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, her business is doing well. She's like now, generating consistent monthly income that is like really helping our family. And so she's getting super busy. So we got to do that thing. And it's really cool, I think, that Webflow, the company, they're okay and they support you, because I have a lot of friends that work in the tech industry.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'm not trying to bag on those companies, they're not as supportive when their employees have these side projects, have these things that they're trying to build on their own. It's really awesome to hear. Sorry about that. There's like gardeners.
It's okay.
My house. Let me close my window real quick. As I was saying, it's really awesome to hear that Webflow is supportive of what you're trying to build and what you're doing over there.
Yeah. Well, it's all about, what they say, dog fooding, where what you make is what you also use. And the Webflow marketing team uses Webflow to build webflow.com and all the marketing pages. Our education team uses Webflow to build the university website. So what you see is actually what the tool can do. And as a customer support specialist, constantly using Webflow as a user helps us understand where are the bugs. I'm basically testing it every day because I'm like, I want to see how far it can go. I want to see how far it can go, and I can makes me more empathetic as a customer support specialist, because if someone reports a bug or says I'm confused about this one thing, I I understand where they are, because I've been through those situations. You know, there's times when I still get confused. I'm still confused and about grid areas, and I still need to learn them. You know, so it's not, there's no such thing as a perfect software, but if I'm always using it, you know, it only helps the company anyways, because I know all the ins and outs of it. And same thing with all of our other teammates. It's really cool. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Well, listen, man, we're getting into the close of time. We're already at like 40 minutes, 45 minutes running. So this video is about to be long. Last thing before we close,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to younger creators, people learning web design? What advice would you give them? Like, pretty much, let's say this. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Build with empathy and honesty. I know I keep saying that a lot, but it's what is needed in this world. And be confident. No one knows what they're doing. No, no one knows. The people that you idolize,
Yep.
they're faking it as much as you. However, they've been faking it for a longer period of time. For the people who look up to me, I always tell people I'm just a nerd who has been clicking on buttons on Webflow since 2013. That's the only difference. I see people who are using Webflow much more faster, much more better than me, and I'm like, heck yeah. So build with empathy and honesty, and also know that you are better than you realize. You can build so many things if you just keep learning something new every day. One little new thing you learn every day, and pass that knowledge forward. And that's it. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love what you said, because I totally believe that wholeheartedly. Of course, about empathy, and honesty. But I've always believed that the people that you look up to, them, like, you know, because sometimes we think, man, I still don't have everything figured out. I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm like, bro, you're always gonna be figuring things out. No matter if you are the most successful person on the planet, you're still gonna be figuring things out.
The paradox of this world that I've learned as I'm growing up, is the people who think they're the people who think they're the most perfect are the most imperfect. But the people who think they're imperfect are the most perfect.
Yeah, it's part of growth, right? The more you grow, the more you realize what you don't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'll be honest with you, I always say this, like, man, when I came out of college, I knew everything. Like, so I went to a theological seminary.
Nice.
I grew up in a faith background. My dad's actually a pastor, and I went to a theology school. When I came out of Bible college, as we would call it, I was like, you know what? I know everything how it is to run a church. And then I started working at a church, and then the longer I worked at it, the more I realized, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, we have all of the wisdom. We know what to do in marriage until we get married.
Yep.
And we know everything what to do. Like, we have all the parenting advice until we actually become a parent, and then we're like, I have no freaking idea what I'm doing.
Yep. And once you
So-
think you do, then your child grows up and goes into another stage or
Yeah.
another phase, and you're like, here we go again.
Yep, that's awesome. Hey, Nelson, Pixel Geek, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For speaking to us, bro. It's a real privilege, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you so much. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from that. If you did, could you do me a favor and click that like button? And that helps me keep creating these videos. And then also consider subscribing. We come out twice a week with videos about web design, about the business, and how you can learn web design as well. Until next time, I'm going to see you guys later. I want to encourage you to always keep learning. What's going on that?
I know the feels. You got this.
Right?
You know what?
Oh,
Keep
bro.
that. Keep that in production.